what you've taken from me. Something I had all along. The truth, just breathe the truth. I cast shadows, it's me. Breathe it out, make your battle marks. Our mission trudge through the mud of time. This truth, cast shadows in the dark. Shadows in the dark. Shadows in the dark.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you're doing good. Let's see here. I don't know if you know this or not, but Sasquatch Unredacted, the podcast we do, it's gotten to be where it's almost every Friday. We've started trying to do it every other Friday, but a lot of times we do it around the guest. So a lot of times it turns out being several Fridays in a row. And usually 9 times out of 10 at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We were supposed to have one yesterday, but our guest had to cancel. We will resume. I'll let you guys know when that happens. I am working on kind of a part 3 to the docuseries. It's more of a prequel. I'm going to be diving into some things I normally don't talk about. Some aspects of this that I kind of shove off to the side, and some parts of my life that may or may not have anything to do with what's going on around my property that happened years ago. And to be honest with you, I don't want to do it. And you'll understand after you watch it. But it's dealing with things that I would just rather leave out. But we decided a long time ago that we were going to report everything that happened. And whether it was connected or not, even if it made us feel uncomfortable, that, and there's parts of it that I feel like I'm obligated to share because of my faith. Let's put it that way. So I've started working on that. I don't know when it'll be out. Should know by now not to give a date or a time, because I've gotten to the point where I've gotten 3/4 of the way through before and started all over again. So who knows when that'll be out. But activity here. About 4 years ago, I started looking for these creatures during the day back in the wildlife management area. I figured they probably weren't staying around here. Then again, there were things that have happened over the years where it was almost like they were watching during the day, because it's almost like they knew what I was going to do the next night. Weird things that happened. But logically, it made more sense to me that they were hanging out near the wildlife management area during the day and then coming around here at night. So years ago, I started going into the management area, and then about 4 years ago, I actually think I found them. I was going in the management area, and on this particular day, I went further down the main road than I'd ever been. I filmed in front of myself doing a Facebook Live, but every once in a while, I stuck my phone up and recorded behind myself. I got home, I went through the video the first day, I didn't see anything. And the second day, I was going through the video, and I found what appears to be something very large, something alive, and all one color that moves out in the middle of the road. And like, it's definitely moving and it's definitely alive. There's even one point where its elbows bent and it straightens out, and it gets in like a 3-point stance like a gorilla. Here, take a look at it. Now, as you've seen, it's obviously a blob squatch. I don't bring it up that much, and I didn't even put it in the docuseries because my standard for evidence has gotten higher over the years. But at the time, I was very convinced that there was a good possibility it was one of them. I don't know what it was. All I know, again, it's alive, it's large, it's moving. I don't know. But it was convincing enough for me to continue going back in that area. Now, It took me, I think, 2.5 months to find that exact spot because I didn't even know where I was at in the road. I had not been that far into the management area up to that day. Finally, after, like I said, 2.5 months of walking the road and looking at my phone and comparing everything, like it took forever to do this. Like I walked, you know, down that road and back, it's like 4 miles, and having to, like, I literally had no idea where I was at in the road. It took forever, but I finally found it, and I went back and I did comparison shots. Take a look at that. Now, obviously, it's my size or bigger, like I said, but it is 100% a blob squatch. It's 175 yards away. I know this because I measured it. Recorded on an unstabilized cell phone as I'm holding it up behind me. Okay. It's just not good enough to prove what that is to the masses. But to me, it was convincing enough to me to start going back in that area. And also, it wasn't just, I call it the road crossing video. It wasn't just that, it was also that particular spot had a really thick pine thicket there. And the way it was kind of laid out in that area, the road, I've actually drawn it up here. I know that's actually a different one, but the road itself, and I try to think from a tactical point of view. If I were them and I were hanging out in a specific area, what kind of area would I want to be in to stay away from humans? Well, if this is the road, it does an L like that. And it was right in here is where they crossed. And I was like right over here. It's got a creek that runs like this. And on either side of the creek, there's a big hill here and one here, which makes like a valley in that creek. And then a very thick pine thicket. So they could hang out anywhere in that area. And the only way in is coming this direction. So they could hang out on this hill right here and see everything coming from that direction. You got the pine thicket, you got the valley, you got water right there. It was just kind of perfect. So I started going back there. One time I went there, I was down in that valley walking the creek, and I had a stick thrown in front of me. It didn't fall down. It came over my head and then down in front of me. Obvious throw. I couldn't find anything. Then I went back there again, and I was 50 yards away. It should be longer. Well, no, I guess it'll work. If the road crossing video was taken here, about 50 yards down here, closer to this valley, I was coming back, and there was a rock stack on the ground that I had missed coming in. I don't even know how I missed it, but I did. I walked up to it to look at it, and right when I stopped to look at it, something very large in this wood line right here on this hill, it jumped out of a tree and landed and ran off. Of course, I couldn't see it because I was up on the road. Whatever it was very large. It jumped out of a tree, hit the ground, and ran away. I didn't see it. So that was on three different occasions, I had a reason to believe they were there during the daytime. After that, it never happened again. So I don't know if they moved location or they just quit interacting or whatever. And I kind of quit looking for them during the day because I was getting, the further along it would go, I was getting more and more activity here. So I wasn't necessarily having to go look for them. Now, here recently, the reason why I'm telling you this, the past couple of weeks, I've been going back to the management area again. My theory is, I've got a lot of activity during the fall, like a lot of activity during the fall. And then wintertime, they're not here. Spring activity starts back up again, but it's very light activity. It's not a lot. I believe their natural habitat is probably that wildlife management area, but during the fall, they probably get pushed out towards my house here. Maybe they're staying around longer. Maybe they get bored because they're here more often, and that's why they get more comfortable, and that's why they interact more. I don't know. It's just a guess. But during the spring, they've obviously been here, just like they have been every other year. But the activity's not as much. So I think they're spending more time back in the management area because there's no hunting going on. It's the only thing I can figure. So I went 5 different days. I went to the management area, and then 2 different evenings I walked the management area. I didn't find anything. I didn't have anything happen. So I didn't put up any videos because there's nothing really to show. I mean, I guess some people would like to see the management area, me walking around. Maybe I'll do that specifically for that reason one day, because there are some, really pretty interesting spots there. But I've shown it several times in the past. So anyway, I didn't put up any videos. I decided to go to a spot that I normally don't go to. And the reason why I don't go there, number one, it's the closest spot in the management area to my property that is the most isolated, but I can't get to it unless I cross other people's private property, which I'm a rule follower. So I hardly ever do that. So what I have to do is I've got to drive. It takes, I don't know, it's about 8 miles. I got to park, and then I got to walk all the way through the management area to get to that spot. And why this spot is so interesting is because of how it's set up. And to me, it just looks like a really good hiding spot for during the day and at night. It's got a creek. It's got a creek that runs through it, and then it branches off. And it's a very, deep part of the creek. And it's also completely covered with trees over the top of it, just weaved all through each other. Then it's got rock outcroppings all over the place around it. And the best part about it for them is it's covered on 2 sides, like private industrial property, where the human activity is extremely reliable. You're not going to get a lot of surprises from the humans that are in that area. And then the other side is private property, but it's pretty far away from like the residential areas. So because of its general location and the way it's laid out and the rock outcroppings, it's got little like mini caves and everything else. To me, it looks like a really good spot. Now, I think, bar none, pine thickets are by far the best hiding spot for these creatures. They can go in there, give them 5 acres of a pine thicket that's pretty thick that humans don't go into, and that's all they need. But a place like this is, I mean, especially at night, would be a really good spot to hang out. Especially if they were coming around to like my house or other people's houses. It'd be like a really good rally point, or a place to go to if they're being chased by a dog or whatever. To me, it just seems like a naturally good hiding spot. So I decided to go out there the other day. So I get to the area where the trees start, covering the creek. And I stop right before I get there, and I look up the hill, and I'm trying to get footage of the sun. The sun's kind of going down. I'm looking through the trees. I want to get footage of that, and then kind of pan over to their area. It's just, kind of cool footage. And as I'm looking up the hill, I hear behind me, first I hear movement, like something in the leaves, and then like some small snapping noises, like breaking noises. And as I'm hearing that, I'm already starting to turn. In fact, I hit my gimbal to lock it because I got a new gimbal, which is great. Um, I had one and then it got broken, so I just replaced it. But I lock my gimbal and then I turn, and as I'm turning, I hear very obvious, like whack, whack, whack. To me, I can't tell you what this was, 100%. But I can tell you, I heard movement. Sounded like it was ground level. Then you've got these they seem intentional. This does not, to me, does not seem like a branch falling from a tree. That is rule number one. Um, Sticks and branches fall in the woods. 99% of the time, that's what it is. That's not exactly what this sounded like to me. And it really didn't sound like that when I got it home. When I got it home, not only is it those three whack, whack, and then a space, and then another whack, but there's two other like hollow sounding popping noises after that. And they all sound pretty intentional. Another thing I found is back in my sitting spot, it was getting to the point to where I was always making a particular noise, and that was hitting my thigh, going. And down there at the sitting spot, I've gotten them to do the same thing back. Now, theirs is always a little more hurried up than mine is usually, but it's still the same pattern. And it's super obvious when they've done it. And I've got it recorded. So I compared the two. And they are very similar. It is two obvious whack, whack, and then a third whack. Now, the first one that I got from the sitting spot down there is way more obvious because they're a lot closer and they're being a lot louder. But this one kind of lines up. Another weird thing was, and this just may be coincidence, before I hear the movement and those sounds, when I pull the trigger on my gimbal, I unintentionally do the same pattern. Click, click, click. And then shortly after that is when there's the whack, whack, whack. Is it all just a coincidence and something's falling out of a tree? I don't know. But what I can tell you is after it happened, I'm filming still. And right when I turn around, I see a little bit of movement. Like I see leaves moving. So I go across the creek. I come up the other side of the bank. And I start looking around on the ground to see if I can find anything obvious, like a branch or something that fell out of a tree. And as I'm looking on the ground, there is something that hits the ground right next to me. It's like next to me, but behind me. Thought that was pretty odd. But then again, I don't know. I didn't see anything. I didn't see another animal. It's not a whole lot to go on. But I tell you this, just like the road crossing video, it's enough for me to definitely go back and see if it happens again. This time I'm going to go a little later. I've already been back since, and I'll probably go every couple days. Probably go down there and keep seeing. Maybe it's them, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just something falling out of the tree. Again, it just sounds a little too intentional to me. But, only time will tell. So what we're going to do, we're going to watch the video of when it happens, when I'm looking up the hill, and then the movement, and then the sounds. And then when I cross the creek, you're going to hear the throw next to me. And I'm filming with not only my phone, but I'm testing out the body camera. So I've got really good audio from both devices. So that's great. And then after we take a look at that, we'll take a look at the sounds on Audacity. And then we'll continue the walkthrough where I show you the whole area and why I think it's such a good spot for them to hang out in. And again, only time will tell. I'll talk to y'all later. I'll show you guys the whole thing first. Let's see, from there, that's actually kind of interesting too. A couple weird noises in there I don't get. This is me clicking the gimbal, these little ones. Right in here is where I start hearing the stepping. Let's see if we can do this. Right there. There's movement and stepping right here. Right here, these two lines, that's going to be my gimbal clicks. Again, I click the gimbal, click, click. But that's the interesting part, is you have the same pattern that they were doing before. 1, 2, 3. You can barely see this one. It's kind of muffled a little bit, but it's there. Whack, whack, whack. And then you've got these two. I'll actually just do it right here. See this bright yellow? It's like a pop. Like a boop. There's another one over here. Sounds like something hitting something else again. So there is movement. It's like 2 pops. But back here, I could hear, I'm sure if I could zoom in, I could find it, maybe. I'm just honestly just not good enough with this thing. Where you actually hear like rustling, like movement. Because I could hear it in person. Then you've got the 2, sounds like maybe steps or brakes. Click, click. And then there's a little bit of time, and then you get it again. Pop, pop, pop. Which is virtually the same as the one below. Which is very interesting to me. Now, who knows? Maybe just a branch. It just seems too... It seems too loud and deliberate to me. Almost the same exact pattern. And I didn't know how far to go with this, but what's really weird, on top of all that, the fact that this kind of lines up with that a little bit, is me clicking the gimbal right here. When I click this gimbal, I do it 3 times. Click, click, click. And then this sound over here is a pop, pop, pop. You know, I'm really good at pattern recognition. It's about one of my only skills that sometimes is useless in real life. But my brain just sees that pattern. That I'm clicking the gimbal. And I can't help but see that pattern. And then you got same pattern over there that matches this pattern down here. So I don't know. That's the bad thing about looking for stuff. You're gonna find stuff. It may very well be a branch falling out of a tree. It just seemed a little too deliberate to me. Hardly ever come back here. Look how hidden this place is. Imagine one of them get up there at night. Hang out on guard duty. And you've got these little partial cave things up there. They're just outcroppings. They're not actual caves, but when you combine how isolated this is, along with how hard it is to get to, and the fact that it's virtually impossible to sneak up on into this area. And that creek right here, see, it goes 3 different directions right here. Back behind me, that way it goes back towards my house, and that goes a different direction. So they probably use this as a travel corridor. I don't know what just happened over there. I don't know. We'll check the video. Let's go up there. Of a hiding spot this is. I mean, this is absolutely perfect. It's obviously a very worn trail through here. Could be a lot of different animals though. Could you imagine being a kid and having a spot like this?